Welcome to Catalytic Leadership, the podcast designed to help leaders intentionally grow and thrive. Here is your host, author, and leadership and executive coach, Dr. William Attaway.
Hey, it's William, and welcome to today's episode of the Catalytic Leadership Podcast. Each week, we tackle a topic related to the field of leadership. My goal is to ensure that you have actionable steps you can take from each episode to grow in your own leadership. Growth doesn't just happen. My goal is to help you become intentional about it. Each week, we spotlight leaders from a variety of fields, organizations, and locations. And my goal is for you to see that leaders can be catalytic no matter where they are or what they lead. I draw inspiration from the stories and journeys of these leaders, and I hear from many of you that you do too. Let's jump into today's interview. It is an incredible honor today to have Kyle Sullivan on the podcast. What does a Division I athlete, drug dealer, husband, pastor, father, and founder of a coaching company have in common? You might be surprised to learn that these are all stages of life for our guest today, Kyle Sullivan. It's quite the journey, and all of it has been built upon to lead to the creation of Unleash the Champ. Kyle founded Unleash the Champ to create powerful coaching experiences for people to match their personal fulfillment to their professional success by using the Playbook to crush overwhelm and increase confidence in the 4 phases of life. With over 10 years of organizational leadership and team development leading thousands of people, plus a growing desire to learn it all, he strives to inspire people everywhere to unlock the cages they're in, to unleash the champ within. Kyle, man, it's so great to have you on the show.
Ooh, come on. I get fired up every time I hear that. I'm like, dang, that's me? Yeah, that's me. I love it. I love it. Man, I'm excited to be on here. And man, I'm excited to be on your show as you were a fantastic guest on my podcast. So I'm excited for this today, man.
You know, it was an honor for me a year ago now. It's hard to believe, a year ago this month that we're recording this, that I got to be on your show and to meet you and connect with you. I just can't wait today for our listeners on the Catalytic Leadership Podcast to hear from your story. I'd love to start there. I'd love for you to share some of your story with our listeners, particularly around your journey and your development as a leader. How did you get started?
Oh, man, I got started because we could go all the way back to like grade school. I feel like my first time getting a leadership opportunity, being able to help teachers out, was because I was so rambunctious. They were just trying to calm me down. And if they could keep me busy, giving me things to do, giving me tasks to lead, then I wasn't disrupting my classmates. And so whether it was maybe some of the younger listeners, I'm like, dang, am I about to age myself? I am about to age myself. Whether it was, clicking the erasers for the chalkboard, or straightening up the desk, or color coding cardboard sheets of paper. It was that. And man, I had people in my life, whether it be teachers, whether it be family, friends, whether it be my coaches in sports, they just always believed in me more than I believed in myself. And I think for me, my dad instilled in me a work harder than you think you're capable of and leave it better than you found it mentality. And I think people realized that. And so I was able to be seen as a leader and given opportunities to lead. Fast forward a decade and a half or so, when I got into ministry, my first full-time ministry job, I was leading people double my age. And I was terrible. I was terrible. I was a bull in the china shop. I remember after I'd been on staff at the church, I worked at Life Church for a while, and I remember talking to a staff member, and they remembered my interview. And in the debrief of my interview, they said, he's a high risk, high reward type of guy.
Oh, wow. What a descriptor.
They said either he is going to upset a ton of people and leave a wake of bodies behind him, or he's going to be one of our greatest leaders. And they took a risk on me. And that's been a consistent theme too in my leadership journey, is people were willing to take a risk on me. Because whether it my upbringing, whether it be my independence, whether whatever, I just was like, I live in a fire ready aim mentality, which sometimes has me, have the gun blow up in my face. But I'm like, nah, I will adjust. It's fine. So as I grew in my leadership, it was through opportunity. I didn't have some formal leadership training. I have a college degree. It's in Christian studies. I had no clue about business when I got started. But as in my bio, I have an increasing desire to be a learn-it-all. I will go down a rabbit hole, whether it's productive or not. If I hear something, I'll just jot it down and I'll research that to no end until I can talk about it. And so whether it be people, whether it be mindset, whether now leadership, or whether it be coaching, consulting, speaking, it's just, I find something that interests me and I just dive into it. And that's been the greatest propellant of my leadership is I want to work harder than I think I'm capable. And I want to leave things better than I found it.
I love that. You've had a lot of varied experiences, from church ministry in large contexts. I mean, Life Church, Transformation Church, these are not small churches. They have significant influence, but you're also an entrepreneur now, and you speak professionally. How would you define leadership?
Man, I think I'm gonna go to the leadership goat and say leadership is influence, John Maxwell. But I have a definition. I have my own definition of leadership that I've never said in a public forum before.
Uh-oh.
Because of what it may do for how it sits with people. So here on the Catalytic Leadership Podcast will be the first time. And if I get canceled, then, well, William, it's been great for us to be friends, man.
Oh, we're staying connected. I'm just going to say that.
And so
before I even hear it.
I define leadership as manipulation with the right heart. And again, rabbit hole. This was one night, and I said, well, if leadership is influence, and influence is being able to get people to do things that you want them to do as if it's their idea, that's the definition of manipulation. And so then I looked up in the dictionary the definition of manipulation. The definition of manipulation is to handle something or someone with exquisite skill and execution. So in our society, manipulation is bad.
Yeah.
As it is defined, it is the practice of an expert that cares about how something is handled. And so that's why I say the heart piece has to come into it. So you can't just say leadership is manipulation, because we've seen that side of it where it's poor leadership and you just top down and do it as I say and blah. But it's when you have the right heart and you say, man, I'm going to manipulate, lead this situation, this team, this person, but it's because I see what's ahead for them and I'm going to push them. I'm going to handle it with expertise and care. That's why I think, man, leadership is manipulation with the right heart.
I'm a word guy. I love words. And one of the things that brings me great joy is when somebody takes a word and brings new meaning to it and redeems it. I think you just did that for the word manipulation.
Come on.
I think that's what I just heard.
Yeah. It did for me, man. I was sitting here one night and I'm like, holy crap. Like, I never, because you only hear that word used in a negative context.
Absolutely.
But as it's defined, it means like intense care about something. So.
Well, you heard it here first.
Come on, you heard it here first.
Brilliant.
Catalytic leadership. Come on.
You talk a lot about being successful. You help people, you help leaders to grow toward being successful? What is the number one thing, Kyle, that somebody needs in order to be successful?
Belief that it's possible.
So it starts here.
It starts in the mind. I mean, we're both Bible guys. We love Jesus, and you're still pastoring. I was a pastor for 12 years. Where there is no vision, the people perish. Have a vision, write it down, and make it plain.
I've read that somewhere.
Yeah. Both are in this book we both hold dear and have given our lives to.
Indeed.
And so when the hardest question for a leader that wants to grow to answer, but it's the cornerstone of everything they'll do after it, is what do you want? Not what your spouse wants, not what your kids want, not what your family wants, not what your organization wants. What do you want? And here's the thing. When I walk people through that, it is the hardest, most complicated thing for them to do. Because they'll say things and then I'll go, cool, great. That's really what you want? And it takes 4 or 5 times, William, for people to go, yes, this is what I want. Cool. Now we have something. Like, I know exactly what I want. And I mean, outside of Jesus saying, hey, it's time to come home, I will not stop until it's achieved. But it started, I had to see it in my mind before I can experience it in my reality.
Yes.
And so that's it, is, it's starting with a belief. And then here's the second thing. Here's like 1A and 1B. Lots of people think and say that they have a fear of failure is why they don't get started on things. I don't want to fail. What if it fails? What if it is? What if it don't? I don't think that is what they're afraid of. I'm of the belief that you are actually far greater afraid of the success that the vision you have would be correlated to.
Oh my.
If you got everything you see with your eyes closed, you would be a completely different person. And so, because people are like, oh my gosh, I'm afraid of failure. I'm like, do you ever fail a test? You ever get an answer wrong? Ever strike out? Ever like not get an A++? You've already failed. You know what that's like. But you have everything you need in this moment inside of you to be exactly where you're at. So what is there to fear if things are going to stay the same? The fear comes from, who do I have to become to get the success that I say I want? 1A, 1B.
So good. I'm that's so the questions, asking the right questions are how you get the right answers. So many of us don't know how to ask the right questions, even of ourselves. And what I love about that is that question, right? What do you want? What do you want? It reminds me, I'm doing a teaching series this year in the month of April as I come back from sabbatical around questions for Easter. And one of my favorite questions is not one that I'm covering in this series, but it's one that Jesus asked more than once when he would go up to someone who had approached him asking for healing of some kind. He would ask, what do you want? What do you want me to do for you? Really? Don't you know?
Right.
He's not asking because he didn't know the answer. He's asking because they need to say it.
Yep. That's it.
I love that. So you were pretty comfortable in church ministry, right? I mean, things were going pretty well. You weren't going down to the left. You were up and to the right. So what led you out of that place of comfort and security to start your own business?
Yeah, man. The up and to the right. I mean, I am pretty blessed to be able to work at 2 of the largest, most influential churches over the course of a decade. I mean, the churches I got to work at as my first and second and only full-time ministry jobs were like places people want to retire.
Yeah.
And it was amazing.
Mm.
Absolutely amazing. And then when my daughter was born, everything changed.
Mm.
When my daughter was born, everything changed because my dad was a senior in high school when I was born. My biological mom was a sophomore in high school. Bio mom bounces when I'm less than 6 months old. This is my dad and I. He gets remarried to my stepmom, who I know is my mom. And life just kind of afforded that my dad had to work a ton. You know, I said in the beginning, my dad taught me, like, work harder than you think you're capable and leave things better than you found it, is because he modeled that.
Mm.
And my dad gave, my parents gave me everything that I needed,
Mm.
most of what I wanted.
Mm.
But as a child and looking back as an adult, the thing I wanted probably more than anything was presents. I wanted them, but life didn't afford us that. Because my dad and my mom didn't work as much as they did, we wouldn't have stuff on the it's not like, oh, we wouldn't have been able to go to Disney. No, we wouldn't have been able to have like bread.
Mm.
And so, William, I remember as a grade school kid making a decision that if I ever got to be a dad, I'd be around, I'd be present.
Mm.
And so when Piper was born, I made an agreement audibly as I'm pushing the bassinet and she's minutes old to the post-op room. And I said, baby girl, I'm going to give you presence of time, not just presence of things.
Mm.
And that was, oh man, that sounds good on a card, a coffee mug, slap it on a bumper sticker. I had no clue how that was going to happen.
Yeah.
Because at the time, this is pre-pandemic, October of 19, we had just wrapped up our first conference at Transformation Church. We were about to take that thing nationwide. Tour bus, we're setting up, pop-up shop, get us an arena. We about to do this thing. And then the pandemic happened. And my daughter, who then was 4.5 months old, she's obviously at home. I'm at home. My wife's at home. And we're working. You know, I'm in the spare room and she's in the bedroom, and pandemic work life. May we never go back to that. And then June of 2020, I'm on a staff meeting call and they say, we're coming back to the office. And your listeners will probably have a similar moment where you just know it's time. It's the only thing I felt. It's time. And I talked to my wife and at this point, pandemic hits, she's 4.5. June, she's about to hit 8 months old. My wife's working, but making maybe 30% of what we need a month. And I tell my wife I want to quit my job. And we talk, and it leads to, I mean, my wife is a rock star. Like, best move I made to date was moving to Oklahoma to chase her almost 10 years ago. Well, I guess 13 years ago, but we've been married 10 years in June. And she said, Kyle, I think you're the last person to realize what you should be doing. And I'm like, hold up. You realize this means we about to go to $0 a month from me. She's like, I know. So again, as I said earlier in the episode, I live my life in a fire-ready aim. So 2 weeks later, I was off the team. And we had some savings. We had some stuff saved up, and we had some money that was going to kind of give us a leadway. And so we felt good about that. And so July 5th, so July 1st, I'm off the team. July 5th is like my first day. I'm like, okay, I'm an entrepreneur. And that was the start of Unleash the Champ. And so we'll celebrate end of 3 years, July 5th this year. Mm-hmm. But it all started with the birth of my daughter. Because if your listeners are familiar with Strength Finder, I've taken it a handful of times, and some strengths vary. one that has been, and every time I've taken it, is futuristic. So I just think that way. Even today, my you know, Piper, our daughter, she'll be 4 in October. And she's like, Daddy, I'm gonna be 4. I'm gonna be this many my next birthday. And I'm like, wow, 75% of the time, and you'll be driving. And my wife's like, why do you instantly go there? And I'm like, I mean, well, we gotta start saving for a car and put money away. She's like, she's 3.5, Kyle. But in the moment where I felt I needed to launch the business was because Piper and Bo, we got a 3.5 and a 1.5-year-old. They're gonna come to me one day and they're gonna have a safe, consistent, like promised good opportunity, great opportunity. Yeah. And they're gonna have a dream. They're gonna have a risk that they want to take. And I wanted to be a father that could give stories, not theories, of betting on yourself.
That's powerful. One of the things that resonated with me about you when we first met was your unquenching belief that everything is going to be great. And this is something that I tell our team a lot, and I have for decades. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. We just got to get from here to there. It's going to be great. And I hold that belief out there. Where do you get your belief that everything is going to be great?
My story, man.
Yeah.
My story. I'm grateful that my wife came from a great family. Came out the womb basically loving Jesus. Never really had a wayward, bone in her body. My story's not that.
Mine either.
I mean, I'm born to 2 high school kids.
Yeah.
One of which bounced within 6 months of me being born. All the things in my bio: drug dealer, D1 athlete, searching, hoping, going through. I mean, I would have bet you good money that I wouldn't have made it past 25. I mean, the moment I realized, okay, I don't want to live this way anymore, I got jumped at a drug deal. Beat within maybe, a foot of my life. And so my belief that everything will work out and everything will ultimately come to pass is my story, man. And for listeners that are going, man, everything's not great. Well, think about all the things you've come through. Yeah. If you're here today, you've overcome. If you're listening to this, you've overcome every hard moment in your life. Yep. So there's no rain that lasts forever.
That's right.
Winter never follows winter.
That's right.
And so for me, it's going, God, this, like we were talking, like, man, 2022 was rough for a lot of us. But it's like, it's right around the bend. It's right around the horizon. Yeah. It's right. Yep. I mean, my wife and I were talking today about Q2 and the targets we have. I'm like, babe, like, whoo, come on. It's coming. Like, we building. And it's I love sports, obviously. And when Deion Sanders took over the Colorado football team, and I freaking loved it. I mean, people gave him flack for it, but he said, hey, I need y'all to know I'm coming. I'm bringing my bags and they Louis. I loved that because he's looking at, opposition to him coming.
That's right.
Belief is not there. Desire to follow is not there. But he's like, hey, I'm coming. And so I'm like, hey, opposition, I'm coming.
Yep.
And so it just, when I think back, and this is why documenting your journey is so important.
Yes.
I mean, and again, like, you just gonna get Bible with us. We can't talk and not have Bible. Why did the Israelites build altars?
Yeah.
So they could remember how they got through things and God showed up.
One of the most common commands in the Old Testament, to remember.
Come on.
Why do you think they said that so often?
because it's
Because they
easy to
forgot.
forget. Come on.
That's right.
And so that's where it is for me, man. And it's people don't know how to take it. I'm sure your team looks at you sometimes like this dude has lost his mind.
Oh, yeah.
And people look at me, they're like, you can't be happy all the time. I'm like, no. Don't don't mistake my belief that it will be okay with me being happy about what's happening.
Absolutely.
It's just an anchoring, and my story, my faith, my experience, and the times that I have seen it work out. Every hard moment in my life, because I'm being able to talk to you today, I got through it. So it's just a matter of time.
Yep. Unwavering belief, unwavering faith.
Come on.
Love it. I love it. You talk about having a championship run, Kyle. What do you mean by that?
Ooh, I love it. So people call it destiny, people call it purpose, people call it calling. I I mean, initially I just wanted something that sounded like that was sports related.
Yeah.
But I think about I got to be on some championship teams in my sports career. And at the beginning of the year, you would always set your targets.
Mhm.
You would set your intention. I mean, every team right now, like I'm big in college football. Every team right now, they're doing spring training. They're doing spring practice. And guess what? They're all undefeated right now.
Yep.
All of them are undefeated for the 2023-24 season.
That's right.
And they all have a purpose for the season. And I think it just implies there's such a richness to having and setting a championship run because you understand there's phases. Like phase one is foundation. That's your training camp. That's you're building the skills. You're building okay, now we got spring ball and like, okay, we got to implement some plays and we got to adjust and we got to see what players we have on the field and what schemes that we can do based on the quality. And so for me, and again, since I'm a sports guy, it just makes so much sense that it's never like we're never going to reach the championship because the target always moves, the goalpost moves back. And so that's the championship run for me. It is the altitude of where you're going, the mindset of what you got to think and say, and it's the performance piece of what you got to do. All of those things coupled with your calling and heart, that creates your championship run. And that's when you get to utilize the playbook to win your own personal championship run.
So why do you think most people don't step into their championship run?
Again, man, it's belief.
Yeah.
I read something once that said, even if it sucks, at least you're comfortable with it. Even if a situation is terrible, at least you know what to expect.
Wow.
And we get beat down, man. We get, I talk about like we willingly walk into cages that trap us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And any behavior done in a good or bad direction over a consistent amount of time just becomes the thing. It yields a result. And so why people don't step into it, again, man, it's the belief, it's the vision, it's the, man, I could fail.
Yeah.
I could succeed. Yeah. And I just think we do a poor job. We kind of mentioned this. I think we do a poor job of really activating the belief in the power of what God can put inside of us.
That's good.
It's it talks about it in the Bible like we're a masterpiece. We're a workmanship created in Christ Jesus to do good works for which He's prepared in advance.
In advance. That's right.
For us to do. So like if I could only read one verse for the rest of my life and all 66 books of the Bible got drilled down to one verse, I would argue that it needs to be that one. Because it says what we are, whose we are, what we're set out to do, and the confidence we can have to do it.
Absolutely. I love that.
And so that's where I think if people would just activate that, we'd have a lot more championship runs happening.
You see some common things holding back your clients that you get to work with, some common cages that they've stepped into?
Yeah, we've ran around the field with with the belief part. A second thing that I would say is just lack of accountability.
The
Because
secret sauce of coaching.
the secret sauce of coaching, because here's the thing, we judge others on their actions.
Yeah.
If I didn't show up for our time today, man, what the heck, Kyle? Like that, this is. But if we don't show up for something, it's like, I meant to do it. So we'll
Right.
judge others. We'll judge others on their actions, but judge ourselves on our intentions.
That's good.
And so when I'm working with folks, I'm like, okay, so we get past what do you want? And then I'll go, and they'll go, oh my gosh, it's just, we'll go get together for our weekly time. Man, I was just so busy this week. Now, it only takes about 2 times for one of my clients to say busy before I get on my soapbox. and because I just think, busy is a barrier for growth.
Yeah.
I like to say that I keep a full schedule because it implies control and I can adjust. But
Good.
if people could have, they have the plan, they have the accountability, it creates momentum. And then managing the momentum is also a challenge.
Yeah.
Because I think it was Eric Thomas in one of his one of his things, kind of his pump up, like, I'm gonna rattle the cages on you. He said, he talks about this alligator. He's like, when is the time that they go to capture more alligators than anything? It's right after they eat.
Oh.
Because they're sedated. One of my mentors I've done a lot of trainings with, he says that he wakes up every morning with the actual belief that he's broke. Now, this cat got helicopters and planes and buildings and all this stuff. He's like, I wake up broke every day because it keeps me hungry. And then I would say another common thread is, once you do start really pushing into momentum and you really start rewiring the brain and you really start, renewing your mind, which is our spiritual act of worship, people that are, I believe, are well-intended will question what you're doing. And I go, hey man, are you, like, I've gotten this twice in the last 3 weeks. Hey man, I just want to check on you. It seems like you're doing a lot. Are you okay? What do you mean? Am I okay? Yeah, I'm fan-freaking-tastic. What are you doing about? Well, it just seems like you're all over the place. You're going here and you're going here. I'm like, yeah, I asked for this. And that's the hard part about growth, is because I know that the people I have in my relationship in proximity now, maybe 20% of them are going to come up to the next level with me.
Yeah. Because
why I've seen this meme a lot. A client will become a friend faster than a friend will become a client.
Boy, isn't that true?
And why is that? I used to get frustrated by that.
Yeah.
But it's because people in our lives now and in the past can only see us as they were introduced to us and how the relationship dictated itself.
We're in a box.
So I used to get frustrated about it. And now I'm like, man, I'm just grateful. I'm grateful for the time. I was also a crazy, like, super connector. I'd be calling people all the time. Hey man, how you doing? Hey man, how you doing? Hey man, I'm like a freaking Labrador puppy. And my counselor, and this is going to unlock some things for people. My counselor said, I want to give you a challenge. I don't know if you can do it. She knows how to motivate me. I don't want you to initiate any conversation with anyone besides your wife for 7 days. Don't text nobody that's not her first. Like, if somebody reaches out to you, respond back, but don't initiate any calls, text messages, or emails to anyone besides Ginger, besides your wife, for 7 days. It's like, that's dumb. What am I going to learn there? How many dead plants you're watering?
Oh, That's
William, I ended up doing it for 30 days.
wow.
And 5 people reached out to me.
Wow.
I said, cool. It's great. Now, there's people in your life that are ride or die. You could not talk to them for 2 decades and you're going to pick right back up. I'm not talking about those people.
Right.
Those people, I got about 5 or 6 of those. We could not talk for, years. Yeah. And we're like, oh, man, it's just not talking about those people.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the people that you are actively like giving, checking in. And they ain't doing the same for you. Mm-hmm. They got to go for you to grow.
Kyle, I could keep this conversation going for another hour. Every time I talk to you, I walk away having learned so much. You are so generous with your wisdom and your insight. And I'm so grateful for that you've shared that with our audience today. If you want, if they were to walk away with one thing today from you, one thing that you want them to make sure they don't miss, what is that one thing?
I'm going to give them another image. So there may be listeners right now and you've stumbled upon this because you want to grow in your leadership and you may be frustrated because you don't hear like what you should do next. Well, understand that the teacher can't speak during the test. And so if you're feeling frustrated, you're feeling in pain, you're feeling anxiety or worry about a decision, and you don't hear what you should do next, believe that you've already been taught the lesson. Take the next right action because the teacher can't speak during the test.
So good. So good. I know people are going to want to stay connected with you and learn more from you. What is the best way for them to do that, Kyle?
Man, it's super easy. Unleashthechamp.com. And would love to, there's a contact form there. I mean, shoot, they could email me, kyle@kylejsullivan.com. That goes straight to me. Doesn't go to our team. That's my direct email. And, go check out Unleash the Champ Leadership Podcast. Scroll back here and let's, hear the conversation when I was on the other side of the mic. That'd be dope too.
Thanks for joining me for this episode today. As we wrap up, I'd love for you to do 2 things. First, subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss an episode. And if you find value here, I'd love it if you would rate it and review it. That really does make a difference in helping other people to discover this podcast. Second, if you don't have a copy of my newest book, Catalytic Leadership, I'd love to put a copy in your hands. If you go to catalyticleadershipbook.com, you can get a copy for free. Just pay the shipping so I can get it to you, and we'll get one right out. My goal is to put this into the hands of as many leaders as possible. This book captures principles that I've learned in 20 plus years of coaching leaders in the entrepreneurial space, in business, government, nonprofits, education, and the local church. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn to keep up with what I'm currently learning and thinking about. And if you're ready to take a next step with a coach to help you intentionally grow and thrive as a leader, I'd be honored to help you. Just go to catalyticleadership.net to book a call with me. Stay tuned for our next episode next week. Until then, as always, leaders, choose to be catalytic.
Thanks for listening to Catalytic Leadership with Dr. William Attaway. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss the next episode. Want more? Go to catalyticleadership.net.